In this video, I will show you 10 amazing traps in the French defense. First, we will see 5 for white and then we will see 5 for black. So let's move on to our first trap. After e4 e6, d4, black goes d5. To play knight c3, knight f6, all standard trap. And here you go e5, knight f d7, and then you play f4. Black goes c5, counter attacking in the center. You play knight f3, knight c6, and here you go bishop to e3. Black goes a6. You play queen to d2. Black goes b5, expanding along the queen side. You take this pawn. Black recaptures, and then you go bishop to d3, enticing black to play d4. Black goes with it, which is a big mistake because you can just take this pawn, and after black recaptures, don't recapture, instant attack the bishop with knight to e4. Bishop moves back, and then you play knight to d6 check, king e7, and now you play bishop to e4. This knight is pinned to the bishop, this rook is hanging, and you're also threatening to win the knight back, and you have a crushing position in just 12 moves. Let's move on to our next trap. After e4 e6, d4, d5, knight c3, d takes e4. You recapture with the knight, and then black goes bishop to d7, knight f3, black goes bishop c6, attacking this knight. You play bishop to e3, defending this knight, and here black goes knight to f6, developing his knight. But here you can just take this knight. Here, if you play g takes f6, then it's fine. But here, black don't want to damage his pawn structure, therefore he plays queen takes f6, which is also the most common move. But this is a big mistake because you can play bishop to g5 and this queen is trapped. Even though he tries, bishop takes f3, counter attacking your queen, you can just play queen to d2 defending this bishop. And after black goes bishop takes g2, trying to regain some material, you can just take this queen and you're completely winning in just 10 moves. Let's move on to our next trap. After e4 e6, d4 d5, knight c3, black goes bishop to b4. This is the Vienna war variation. Bishop d3 defends the pawn. Black goes c5, attacking in the center. You take this pawn, and here black takes this pawn with the queen. You play knight f3. Black goes c takes d4, attacking this big knight. But here you counter attack with a3. And here black goes queen to a5, taking advantage of the fact that your pawn is pinned to the rook. But here you don't care and just take this bishop. After black captures your rook, you play knight to d4. Black can't do much, so he plays something, say knight to c6. You play knight to b3, and this queen is lost. Let's move on to our next trap. After e4 e6, d4 d5, knight c3, knight f6, play bishop g5, black goes bishop e7. This is one of the standard line in classical variation. You play e5, knight a4, you take this bishop, black recaptures, and then you go queen to g4, hitting this knight and then g7 pawn. Black castle here, you play bishop d3, putting pressure on this knight. Black exchanges knight, you recapture, and here black goes c5. Now you play knight s3, black goes c4, attacking this bishop, creating this strong pawn chain. Here every move seems like natural, but this is a big blunder because you can play bishop takes h7 check, king takes, and then you go knight g5 check, king g8, but you go queen to h5, and here black have to give up his queen in order to save checkmate. He can try rook to d8, but even here it's a mate in 2 after queen h7 check, king f8, and then queen to h8 checkmate. Let's move on to our next trap. After e4 e6, d4 d5, you play e5, and this is the advanced variation. c5, attacking the center. You play c3, defending this pawn. Knight c6, and then you go knight f3. Black goes queen b6, putting additional pressure on this pawn. And here you go with this tricky move, bishop to d3. Black takes this pawn, and you recapture. And here, more than 70,000 players have played knight takes d4, thinking that they are winning a pawn after knight takes, queen takes. But this is a big mistake because you can play bishop to b5 check, which is a discovered attack on the queen. And after black blocks, you can just take this bishop first and then take his queen. And you are just completely winning. Now let's look at some traps with the black pieces. After e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3, you go bishop b4. This is the Veena war variation, e5. You go c5 attacking the center. e3 trying to kick this bishop. You take this knight, white recaptures, and then you go knight to e7. Queen g4 attacking this pawn. Here you go with this tricky queen to c7. Black takes this pawn and then you go rook to g8. Black takes another pawn, but you go c takes d4. And after white goes knight to e2 defending this pawn, then you can go knight bc6. White goes c takes d4. But here you sacrifice your knight with knight takes d4. And after white recaptures, you can go queen to c3 check, king e2, and you are just up an exchange and completely winning. White is also behind in development, his king cannot castle, and you have a huge advantage. Let's move on to our next trap. After e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3, bishop b4, white goes knight to e2, defending his knight. You take this pawn, white goes a3. Here you take this knight, white recaptures, and then you go knight to c6. White goes queen to g4, attacking this pawn. But here you completely ignore this and play knight takes d4. White takes this pawn, and then you go knight takes c2. King e2, and here don't capture this rook. Instead, just play queen to d3, checkmate, and you win in just 9 moves. Let's move on to our next trap. After e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3, bishop b4. White goes e5, you play queen to d7, enticing white to play bishop to b5. Here white goes knight f3. Now you play b6. And here more than 1000 players have played bishop to b5. Here the most common move is c6 by black. But here there is a hidden tactic which is bishop takes c3. And after white recaptures, you can just take this bishop and you are just up a piece and completely winning. Let's move on to our next trap. After e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3, bishop b4. Here some players play f3. But here you can just take this pawn, and after they recapture, you can punish this move with queen to h4 check. White goes g3, and then you play queen takes e4, forking the king and the rook. King f2, and then you just take this rook and you are completely winning in 7 moves. Let's move on to our last trap. After e4, e6, d4, d5, e takes d5, you recapture. This is the exchange variation of the French defense. White goes knight f3, you play bishop d6, bishop d3, all standard stuff, knight c6, and here white goes c3. You play bishop g4, pinning this knight to the queen. And here more than 4000 players have played bishop to g5, thinking that they are developing with tempo. And here there is a hidden tactic. The knight is the only defender of this bishop. Therefore, you can play bishop takes f3, removing the defender of the bishop. And here if white takes your bishop, then you can capture his bishop. White goes bishop takes queen, you capture his queen, and after white takes your bishop, you can take this bishop with the rook, and you are just up a piece and completely winning in just 9 moves. Well, this is not the end. If you want to learn some more chess traps, then you can check out this left playlist. And if you want to learn some chess openings, then you can check out this right playlist. And if you don't want to miss more amazing videos like these, then don't forget to subscribe.